lore expansion that made this viewer want to bludgeon himself with his own cup. The Hunger Games prequel's reviews are in, and can this be the first profitable movie to save Rachel Zegler's career? Well, no, actually.
I never thought that I would be here 6 days ago. I did it.
In fact, for me, the best thing about this movie is definitely the title of the movie itself. It's almost like it was written for the cast itself, because Rachel Zegler can really sing. And she's a snake.
I cannot even believe those words just came out of your face towards my face.
Now, something to remember with Rotten Tomatoes, as always, this score is essentially the percent of people that think it's slightly better than mid. So if only 61% of people think that, it's really not a compliment. And that's just from all critics. If you click top critics, it goes down to 46. What are we going to do next? Are we going to start gatekeeping the critics as well? Like we do with the audience scores? Because judging by this, I mean, the audience absolutely loves the Marvels, despite the fact that no one's going to see it. It even had the Access Media come out and try, 8 reasons why the reviews are so mixed. I don't know. Is it because it's trash? Have you ever considered the reason why people poorly review movies is just because they're bad? Now, I do realize if you're the Marvels director, then you would prefer to just throw slurs at your audience. It's far easier just to hate the people with taste than it is to accept your own incompetence. And after all, how else are you going to convince those gullible marks in Hollywood to keep employing you if you don't blame the people they're trying to get money from? I mean, after this, to employ her for anything else is just pure stupidity. She's guaranteed to burn hundreds of millions of dollars that you give her. But Hollywood, if you want to be that stupid, go right ahead. Who am I to complain? But for everyone else in the world who doesn't think their IQ is measured in millimeters, maybe we can accept the reasons why the reviews are bad. Or because the movie is. We don't need to spin it as it's just more of the same. If you like the first movie and they give you more of the same, you like it. The John Wick franchise is based upon that premise. But no, if we keep giving more of what you like, you won't like it anymore. The movie is overstuffed. It just gives you too many good things. It's like eating too much chocolate. You walk out the cinema and start throwing up because the movie was that amazing. The final act slows momentum. Yeah, we were absolutely loving it. But you know, that last 15 minutes, that made me go from giving it a 10 to a 3. I mean, unless the final act is a live reenactment of a Saw game in the middle of the theatre, I'm not sure it could have left that much of an impact, to be honest. I mean, the reviews agree that it's faithful to a book. Yeah, that's an interesting one to look into. If you look at the original trilogy of books, they were getting released one every year, and then just stop in 2010. Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes didn't come out until 10 years later, during which time we'd had the movies, ending in 2015. The interesting part is that in 2017, the Lionsgate CEO expressed interest in spin-offs of the Hunger Games, with intentions to create a writer's room to explore the concept. That would be 2017, in between the movies ending, but still 3 years before the book came out. Now, maybe it's just cynical old me, but when Lionsgate says that the stories have more to tell, and says that they'd like to make more Hunger Games movies, but they'll only go ahead if they can get the creator to sign off on them, and then 3 years later they pop out a book, really looking like the book was only written so that they could make a movie out of it, because otherwise they just sat around on their arse for 7 years thinking, I'm completely done with that series. I think I'll just start again now, actually. This sounds good. I'm not getting any more checks from those movies, but I would really love one more. And look, I'm not against anyone making money. All I'm saying is if you don't actually genuinely want to make a book because you have an idea that just has to be written down, and instead you're trying to force an idea out into a book, specifically so that you can just make one for a movie, maybe that book won't be as strong as the originals. And maybe in that case, staying faithful to it may not actually be the best thing to do. And if this book was written specifically so it could be turned into a movie, is it any surprise that the book could be really faithful to the movie in the first place? Reviews are torn about whether it's a worthy franchise addition. That's the same as just saying it's getting mixed reviews. The movie is too long. You're just giving us too much good stuff. Look, as we all know, people are famous for disliking too much of a good thing. That's why people will watch Lord of the Rings and absolutely love them, but you give them the extended editions and it's like, no one wants the extended editions. It's all about what can we have the shortest movie possible, because it's just so good. If it goes on for too long, my serotonin gland will explode. They're even like, this is an incredibly long movie. It's 9 minutes longer than the last one. It's those 9 minutes that really knocks it down the review score. What are we even doing? Critics are mixed about Ballads of Songbirds story. That's the same thing as saying people are torn about whether it's a worthy addition to the franchise. Or saying that the reviews are mixed, or that it slows momentum in the final act. Screen Rant, you only had to come up with 8 reasons. How did you struggle with that? But Screen Rant is nothing if not able to spin a quality tale itself. They even came out with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes sets a Rotten Tomatoes Hunger Games record. That sounds amazing, doesn't it? Congratulations, Rachel, you've finally done it and broken through into actual profitability in a company. No more will the company just be setting fire to your wages. No more will the stock market wince at your very name, because now you have set an industry record for the Hunger Games. Ballad of Songbirds Snakes has come in at 67%, making it the worst reviewed entry in the franchise. I mean, that's one hell of a grift, isn't it? This is a new record for being trash. Now, it does say that Rachel is frequently cited as a high point compared to other cast members. And with that, I can fully believe it. I mean, Rachel tends to destroy a movie in its marketing rather than inside the movie itself.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, therefore it's extremely dated.
All of the people were angry.
Those people.
I hold a lot of privilege.
You have a way with words.
No.
Word vomit.
We will not allow you to take away our dignity!
And with the actor strike over the last 3 months having gagged most of the actors from talking about any of these movies, she hasn't had much time to do it with this one. In fact, when I saw this title from IndieWire, the strikes are over, but the damage to theatres has just begun. I just thought it was about Rachel herself. But maybe all is not lost. Despite the really terrible reviews, this is a Hunger Games movie. Maybe brand IP in an 8-year gap, it will simply be enough to carry it over the line, despite the fact that word of mouth probably won't play much of a part. I mean, Variety has come out today and said it's looking to make $50 million in its first weekend of release in North America alone. Now, you have to remember that Variety also had The Marvels, tracking at 75 to 80 million, and it ended up getting 47 million. So there's definitely room to error, but as this movie cost like a third of what The Marvels did to make, it is at least in with a chance of breaking even. Now, of course, no business spends $100 million with the attempt to just break even. They'd like to double it or triple it. But at the same time, it's Rachel Zegler's first ever movie to break even, so that's like a world record to her.
At the end of the day, this is a story of representation, and it matters.
Small steps, maybe the next one will make a profit. Okay, sorry, no, getting a bit ahead of myself there, aren't I? I did briefly for a moment forget that Snow White was the next movie, or that it had CGI dwarves.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
Thanks, Peter, pulling the stepladder up behind you as always. I'm sure those 7 actors are praising your name every night. I don't know if I was in your position, I'd do the same thing and just gatekeep the industry so I had less competition, but what I do know is I'd be more subtle about it. And when you go and look at the reviews themselves, I mean, they are rough. Songbirds and Snakes takes their job super seriously with more solemnity than imaginative excitement. The odds were not in its favor. Curiously starved for real insights into the opposing shades of the human soul. Probably because to understand it, you'd at least have to have one. Misses too many notes to live up to its predecessors. The film isn't so much entertainment as it is an exercise in survival. The singing takes a giant leap forward. I don't even know if that's intended. Maybe it's just a poor choice of words. Then again, it is Rachel Zegler, so who knows?
Weird.
The movie is far too long. You're always aware you're watching a movie. Even the title is too long. Liz was so pissed off, she got annoyed at the title. People say I nitpick. It's like, no, you care about the small details when there's nothing else interesting happening, and she found herself pondering the meaning of the title, rather than what was happening on screen. Sometimes you find yourself looking at your watch thinking, how does a liquid crystal display work? Predictably passionless and derivative. I mean, I guess it's passionless because Rachel Zegler doesn't need to get saved by a prince, does she?
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Won't get saved by no man in this movie. She's just a girl doing it for herself.
Snakes, of course.
And this summary of the plot is enough to make me not want to watch it on its own. A doomed romance led the series' main villain to evolve out of a tall, moody, sad boy with the personality of Driftwood. But that's the same thing. Oh, it was just a doomed romance. Yeah, the man had nothing else in his entire life. He had no other interests or things that could possibly have affected him in any way, shape, or form. And just because one person refuses to make him a sandwich, he turns into a serial-killing murderer. It's a story as old as time, folks. And that's why I really like these movies. They always talk about values and situations that you can relate to and see yourself in. You're like, yeah, I can remember when I got sad once that somebody turned me down and the next thing I'd wiped out half the universe. The film lectures you. Honestly, you could have stopped the review there, mate, and just give it a 1 out of 10. Lectures you about the audience's craving emotional connections to their violence. It seemingly forgets to connect you to the characters. or the violence. I'd never thought about the Hunger Games like that, actually. The entire thing is about how the world loves watching gore, and yet everyone in the cinema who's watching gore is going, this is boring. And if anyone's thinking, no, it doesn't need to do that, it's like, I don't know. I mean, Gladiator managed it. The audience was as invested in the fights as the audience in the movie was. That's called good storytelling.
I wasn't the best because I killed quickly. I was the best because the crowd loved me. In the crowd, and you'll win your freedom.
And that's because you could relate to the values of that character and what he was going through. He'd just lost his family. Now he's getting persecuted in an arena. That's not just, oh, a woman said no to me, and so now I'm gonna wipe out the earth. That's what happens when somebody doesn't understand how men work. It undercuts the legacy that defined an era of young adult literature. That sounds like somebody who was personally offended by the movie. You destroyed my childhood. Which after Rings of Power and Wheel of Time, I think a lot of people can sympathize with. But then we get an absolute beast coming in who just says this movie was bad, but in a surprising, unique way. 1 out of 5. Yeah, it's bad, but you'll never guess how. Let's find out, shall we? The prequel dive bombs into ignominy and obscurity during its protracted final act. Dude, am I gonna need a dictionary to read this review? Ignominy, I couldn't even read the word to begin with. Public shame or disgrace. I love it. That's gonna be the next defenestrated. Dive bombs into shame and disgrace. A serviceable B movie. Bolts on an extra hour of vapid soul searching and lore expansion that made this viewer want to bludgeon himself with his own cup. Oh, after reading this, I want to bludgeon myself with my own cup. Snow is paired with a sassy warbler, Rachel Zegler, who likes nothing more than to express herself through song repeatedly.
If I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress, I deserve...
And remember, Screen Rant said that was a high point of the movie, and yet reading this part of the review makes me wish I was Echo. And if you're thinking you can't say that, that's offensive to Echo, don't worry about it, she's deaf, she can't hear it. One thing that's problematic is that the games are dull. The Hunger Games is all about people murdering each other. How you managed to make that dull? That appeals on a base level to masculinity. Oh no, sorry, you've got Rachel Zegler. Sorry, it all makes sense.
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
High point of the movie. The games are so dull, it's quite a stretch to accept they would have become a cultural phenomenon in their time. Watching amateurs fighting is actually very tedious. And we know that ourselves from all those streamers doing boxing matches. The question is, why do we get this extraneous chunk of film served up to us in the first place? He's just sitting in the movie thinking, I don't know why this exists. This is an attempt to cram everything there is into a single sitting. Entertainment be damned. I tell you what, this guy doesn't mince his words. Now, some people out there might say I never give a positive spin on a movie. I never talk about anything good. And for you, I've got something very special. Here's Grace Randolph for you.
That's not only the fault of kind of society.
Tom Blythe and Viola Davis make this prequel sing. This is the best Hunger Games movie since Catching Fire, which, considering Mockingjay was one book and should never have been split up into 2 movies to begin with, it's really not saying much, is it? This is the best movie since those previous last 2 trash ones, which are universally renowned as the worst ones of the series. Congratulations. No, this is worth another trip to the arena. There's Grace Randolph there. Huge fan of Dr. Disrespect.
We're jumping in to the arena, and I'm putting a personalized guarantee stamp of approval.
But no, despite Screen Rant's attempt to say that the reviews of these are mixed, you really have to think, how mixed are they? With just 42% from top critics, and those are the people who have to give it a 6. There are times where you think maybe the titles of the reviews really speak for themselves. The prequel thrills, but fails to justify its existence. Empire comes in with a 2 out of 5. It's too little, too late. A shallow prequel that fails to breathe new life into the Hunger Games franchise. The more of these reviews I read and it just keeps on about singing, the more I think, does this movie purely exist to get Dan Vast to 1 million subs? Was that the attempt behind all of this? Because there's been a hell of a lot of musicals recently. Sure, none of them are any good, but that's not Dan's fault. A limp prequel that dilutes its biggest villain. 2 out of 5. Their performances hint at true narcissism.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Something you'll struggle to find in any of the limp, neutered romantics of Songbirds and Snakes. And if nothing else, I'm sure that'll please Rachel, because she absolutely despises romance.
She's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Yeah, she's not going to be saved by no dangly bits. Far too superior for that. And you know you're in trouble when the previous actress you're replacing just gets brought up by the Hollywood Reporter of all things. When the Hollywood Reporter turns against you, you're in trouble. Jennifer Lawrence is sorely missed in this dour prequel, short on excitement. This is a $2.9 billion franchise, which may struggle to bring in $50 million in domestic. Maybe she should have got saved by that prince after all.
Just means that our stories are worth telling, and I think the success review-wise of our film shows that our stories are worth telling.
Katniss showed love and respect by spreading flowers over a dead girl's body. If only this bloated prequel had a scene or two with even a fraction of that emotional power, you might as well have just gone, they're all dead on the inside. I wonder why everyone was bored in the cinema. Is it because you couldn't make the audience feel anything? Because the writers in Hollywood no longer share the values and therefore the emotional resonance of an audience. They don't know why any of this should have an emotional impact, because they no longer have values that would make them feel such themselves. The whole world is an arena, and we need the Hunger Games every year to remind us who we truly are. Gory sacrifices in this equation are simply the price people are willing to pay for a good show, if only. This is somebody who would absolutely have loved a Hunger Games every year if only it was good. Congratulations, Rachel, you've done it again.
This carpet is a person with feelings.
That's gaslighting. That's what it is.
An absolute banger that is clunky and stretches way over 2 hours. Starting to see a little bit of a pattern among the reviews at this point. This prequel is worse than terrible. It's bland. And that's always been my attitude, actually. I can get entertainment out of something that's good or something that's really bad. But something that's just somewhere around the middle area, especially towards the bottom, so you're coming in at about a 3, that's really difficult to get entertainment out of. Because the actors are meh, the shooting is meh, and you spend the entire time bored rather than laughing, which is what I get from a really bad piece of entertainment. And this seems to get the worst end of the stick. And before anyone comes out and just goes, you're all bigots! And I don't know why you'd call the professional critics, like the good people at the Hollywood Reporter, that.
Like,
Those people.
They don't need to be attacked by such hateful slurs. Original Sin came out and said, Songbirds and Snakes loses its female protagonist and its appeal. Everyone just wants Jennifer Lawrence back. Yeah, maybe a sequel is more on the cards than a prequel, eh? And they're not the only ones that said it. It's actually repeated across multiple reviews that, yeah, we really miss Jennifer Lawrence. So as we go forth into Rachel's third outing into the cinema, this time with a gag order on her for most of the marketing potential. Turns out that it's spectacular, but its spectacle actually isn't enough. You do need some kind of movie underneath it all. Even The Guardian thought that the movie went back to an empty future. Now starved of inspiration, and that it's time to end the games. Although if you ever want a deluded take, just go over to IGN, where they say that 2.5 hours is too little time to spend on this prequel. Everyone else says it's way too long, and IGN's just like, give me more! How am I supposed to shill something this hard when I only have 2.5 hours of material? No, for me, the takeaway from this is if you like the originals, probably not going to be too much of a fan of this one, because Jennifer Lawrence simply cannot be replaced by Rachel Zegler.
I feel like it's none of my business.
And after everything we've seen, all of the clips across multiple movies, I can't say that I'm surprised. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.